by electricity and water authorities, 6th Science Week, which is being held under the theme Innovative Emirati Engineer. DEWA Science Week will create an innovative platform to meet all stakeholders and exchange skills, while sharing insights on how to further develop them. It will give DEWA's employees the opportunity to enhance their skills and familiarize themselves with the latest updates in different technical fields related to electricity.
الحضور الكريم، أتشرف الآن بدعوة سعادة السيد محمد الطاهر العضو المنتدب الرئيس التنفيذي لهيئة كهرباء ومياه البلد لإلغاء كلمة الافتتاحية، فليتفضل مشكورا.
Distinguished guests, I would like to now invite His Excellency Sayyid Mohammed Al-Taher, MD and CEO of DEWA, to make his opening speech.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السيدات والسادة الحضور الكريم، يسعدني أن أرحبكم جميعا بالدورة السادسة من الأسبوع العلمي لهيئة كهرباء ومياه دبي، والتي تقام تحت شعار مهندس إماراتي مبدع، ومشاركة كريمة من عدة جهات حكومية، إضافة إلى طلاب الكليات والجامعات، حيث نهدف من خلال تنظيمه للمساهمة في تحقيق الاستراتيجية الوطنية للابتكار التي أطلقها سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم، نائب رئيس الدولة رئيس مجلس الوزراء حاكم دبي رحمه الله، بهدف جعل دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة ضمن الدول الأكثر ابتكارا على مستوى العالم، وترسيخ مكانة إمارة دبي في تنمية قطاع البحوث والتطوير وكنموذج يحتذى به في تحقيق أعلى معايير كفاءة الطاقة وزيادة استهاماتها المتجددة والنظيفة، حيث نعمل في الهيئة على تحقيق استراتيجية دبي للطاقة النظيفة 2050 التي أطلقها سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم رعاه الله لتحويل الإمارة إلى مركز عالمي للطاقة النظيفة والاقتصاد الأخضر، وزيادة نسبة الطاقة النظيفة في دبي لتصل إلى 7% بحلول عام 2020 و25% بحلول 2030 و75% بحلول 2050. ونسعى من خلال إقامة الأسبوع العلمي الذي بدأت الهيئة بتنفيذه عام 2010 إلى إيجاد منصة لتبادل أفضل الممارسات والخبرات والتقنيات والمعارف العلمية المختلفة وحدة المستجدات في مختلف المجالات الفنية المتعلقة بالنظام الكهربائي، بالإضافة إلى تعزيز قنوات التواصل مع المهندسين سواء من داخل الهيئة أو خارجها، وتعريف مبادرات الهيئة والمشاريع الجديدة والمساهمة في تحقيق الأهداف الاستراتيجية للهيئة والجهات المشاركة من خلال توسيع نطاق التعاون بهذه الفعاليات، حيث تغطي مختلف المجالات الفنية ذات العلاقة بالنظام الكهربائي والذي يشمل الإنتاج والنقل والتوزيع. وتحرص الهيئة كمؤسسة مستدامة مبتكرة على مستوى عالمي وبشكل متواصل على مد جسور التعاون مع مختلف المؤسسات العلمية والمتخصصة المحلية والعالمية كشركاء في الاستخدام بهدف تبادل المعارف والخبرات وأفضل الممارسات وتنفيذ مبادرات مشتركة من شأنها الارتقاء بالأداء المؤسسي وتطوير الخدمات ودعم المساعد في مجال الحفاظ على الموارد الطبيعية. كما ينسجم تنظيم الأسبوع العلمي السادس مع رؤية الإمارات 2021 التي تهدف إلى أن تكون الدولة من بين أفضل دول العالم في مجال التعليم القائم على الاقتصاد المعرفي، وخطط دبي 2021 أن تكون دبي موطن للأفراد المبدعين ممكنين من لهم الفخر والسعادة. وتماشيا مع مبادرة دبي الذكية التي طلبها سيدي صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم نائب رئيس الدولة رئيس مجلس الوزراء حاكم دبي رعاه الله بجعل مدينة دبي الأذكى والأسعد في العالم. ويأتي اختيار شعار الأسبوع العلمي هذا العام منسجما مع الدور الذي تقوم به الهيئة في دعم التوطين والارتقاء بمستوى ومهارات المهندسين المواطنين في كافة المجالات، وخاصة المجال الفني بشكل يمكنهم من الإبداع والابتكار والإسهام بدور إيجابي في إكسابهم قدرة على المنافسة في سوق العمل، ولتشكل دعما جديدا لسياسة توطين الوظائف التي تتبعها حكومتنا الرشيدة، وإيمانا بدور الهيئة ومسؤوليته المجتمعية وكمبادرة جديدة ضمن فعاليات الأسبوع العلمي. هذا العام قامت الهيئة بتجهيز مركز ديوا للإبداع للطلاب، مركز دبي للتأهيل المعارضين، وذلك من أجل دعمهم وتوفير كافة السبل لهم لاكتساب المعرفة العلمية والعملية. الحضور الكريم، أتمنى أن يكون هذا الأسبوع لهيئة كرمان ينبغي فرصة مثمرة لتبادل الخبرات والمعارف وتوطيد أواصر التعاون والتنسيق بين مختلف الهيئات والمشاركة، بما يساهم في ضمان مستقبل أكثر إشراقا للأجيال القادمة. أتمنى أن يكون هذا الأسبوع فرصة كذلك لتبادل الخبرات والمعارف. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
نشكر سعادة السيد محمد الطاير على كلمته القيمة. والآن مع عرض فيديو للتحضيرات الجارية لافتتاح مركز ديوا للإبداع في مركز دبي للمواطنين.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Sayyid Mohammed Al-Tayer. I would now like to invite you to watch a short video about the preparation of DEWA's Innovation Center to support students from the Dubai Rehabilitation Center for the Disabled.
هذه قمة الابتكار، قمة الازدهار، قمة الانتصار، قمة الهمم التي لا تعرف الانكسار.
Is there a laptop there on the...
No, there's your preview will be off.
No.
You can play on the screen there.
Here?
Yeah.
There is no one there?
There's no laptop there. But
Okay.
you can use the clicker and click it directly on that.
Yes, but I want to look at them, not to turn my face. I have to look here.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
أتشرف الآن بدعوة البروفيسور رياض الدباغ من جامعة عجمان للعلوم والتكنولوجيا للتحدث عن الطاقة المتجددة والمصدر الرئيسي للطاقة الكهربائية في المستقبل.
We would like to invite Professor Riadh AlDabbagh from Ajman University of Science and Technology to discuss renewable energy and the key source for future world electricity.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a great pleasure for me to be here sharing you this scientific week. I'm going to talk about, mainly renewable energy, which is the key now for the source of future electricity. As far as you know, the vision of United Arab Emirates till 2021 national agenda focus on the improving the quality of life and then preserving water resources as well as really increasing the contribution of clean energy. And that's very important really, because the whole world is now seeking a clean energy and implementing what we call it the green growth plans as well. So if we try to put this vision as it is, we will have what we call it the smart energy and system integration, where renewable energy technology takes place and intelligent energy system. And the most important thing is to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide, in the society, because, that's the big problem which the whole world is facing now. And this is part of what we call it the global warming in general. Then that will give us what we call it smart green building and cities, as His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Saeed Muhammad Tayer mentioned, in his speak. Anyway, if we try to talk about the energy, we have really two types of energy, renewable and non-renewable energy. And our renewable energy is generated from natural resources, from the sun, wind, water, tides, and can be generated again and again and again as we require it. This is the cleanest source of energy, and it is as well, from the environmental point of view, friendly to the environment. And as you can see, we have the different types of energy, this is the water energy, as well as, the wind energy and solar energy, different source of solar energy as well, and tidal energy as well. So this is the whole, world is now trying to find ways, for this sort of energy. And if we try to see the targets of different countries, to use renewable energy, especially electricity production, we will see that Australia, by the year 2020, they will try to have 20% of their electricity coming, from that, as well as, Canada, France, and Germany, and New Zealand, Spain, and just to try to look here that New Zealand is the country which is very close to the northern pole. Although the sun duration is very limited there, but you can see they have a target by the year 2025. they will produce 90% of their electricity from the solar energy, you know. And this is really amazing, you know. Sweden as well, United Kingdom, which is really doing very well indeed, and United States as well. Bahrain and, you know, Kuwait by the year 2030, 15% of their electricity is going to be from renewable energy, and mostly from, you know, I mean, solar energy, as well as, you know, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and here in the United Arab Emirates as well. The target is going to be by the year 2020, 7%, as His Excellency, you know, Al-Tayr mentioned, and that will be increased to be 1 gigawatt by the year 2030. Anyway, if we try to go to the non-renewable energy, and as you know, our non-renewable energy is the oil, gas, and coal, and up to a certain extent as well, you know, the nuclear energy. And nuclear energy, you know, because of the uranium is very limited, you know, in the earth crust. That's why, you know, it's really regarded as, you know, non-renewable. First, this energy will finish one day, and then, you know, we are not going to use it anymore. Secondly, which is really very important, is really that sort of energy is bad for the environment, you know, because all of them, you know, whether it is the oil, gas, and coal, you know, they really deliver a high percentage of gases, which is really affecting our health. And as you can see, the level of carbon dioxide emission is really a big indicator for that, of how efficient we are using our planet. And you can see the gauge is going to reach the red. And by the way, you know, nowadays we have billions of tons of carbon dioxide hanging in the atmosphere. And this carbon dioxide is forming a layer around the earth and really not allowing the exchange of heat between the surface of the earth and the atmosphere. And that's why we have what we call it the global warming, you know. That is the main reason for our carbon dioxide, which is increasing very much indeed. And as you can see here, there is a parallel relation between carbon dioxide and the temperature. The more carbon dioxide, you can see, the more temperature increase, and this really is creating a big problem to our planet, to the earth. The non-renewable energy, as I mentioned, you know, the coal, the gas, you know, as well as uranium, and the oil, you know, and to a certain extent, you know, the nuclear energy as well. And the nuclear energy, you know, mostly, as I mentioned, you know, the uranium, you know, which plays the role. But if we try to see which sort of energy we are using nowadays, we will see that we are concentrating mostly on our non-renewable energy. We are using now 81% of our energy is non-renewable, and we are just, you know, having 19% of renewable. That's why we have to switch to the renewable energy, because as I told you, first of all, you know, this sort of energy, the non-renewable, will finish one day. Secondly, you know, this is really a very bad friend to the environment because of the gases that is being emitted. And if we try to look at the global energy consumption, we can see that, you know, it is really increasing very much, and that is really frightening. So we have to do something for it. Electricity generation in general by fuel 2000 to 2025, you can see in billion kilowatt per hour, mostly from coal, nuclear, as well as natural gas, and that, from renewable as well as from oil, and this represent, that renewable energy is still very limited if you compare it, to the non-renewable. The number of countries, that are really generating power is about 257, and they are classified into three main groups. A group that consume more than 10,000 kilowatt per year per capita. Only 11 countries, they really spend too much, electricity, if you can say. And we have about 79 countries which are, the world average. The number of countries that they use less than 3,000 kilowatt per year per capita is 178, and the number of countries less than 1,000 kilowatt per year per capita is 127 countries. And as you can see, the consumption of electricity in general is increasing, and that increase is really frightening. Why it is after 90s, let us say, that shooting up of the, electricity consumption, generally speaking, all over the world, because parts of the world, before 90s, they never used to have, air conditioning like what they have nowadays. Because at that time, the global warming was not up to that standard. Now you can see, when I was a student in Britain, we never had even a fan, not air conditioning. Now you can see air conditioning everywhere in Europe, That's why, the consumption of electricity increased very much indeed, and that's really frightening, the rate of consumption. Some selected countries, which they have very high consumption per capita. We can see that, Iceland, as I have already mentioned, in the beginning, then Norway. Those, the consumption is more than 10,000 kilowatt per hour per capita. Iceland, Norway, Kuwait, Canada, Sweden, as well as United Arab Emirates, United States, Australia, and South Korea. Countries who are less than 10,000 and more than 3,000, they start with Qatar and, end with Malaysia. And countries who are less than 10,000 start with, Morocco and end with Chad. Chad, you can see, is really unbelievable. It is only 8. And if we try to look at it, we will see that in a few minutes, we will see that they are really poor in energy in general, Now, why we are concentrating on solar energy? Because solar energy really, or solar power, is derived from the sun. It's the most abundant source of energy on the earth. Solar energy also is the major source of energy among all the nations. As you can see here, the lightning in New York at night, more than 12,000 kilowatt per capita per year. While you can see on the contrary, people who are really suffering. This is an African villager in Uganda, 315 kilowatt per capita per year. And people in Ghana, still they don't have any electricity, as I have already mentioned, there. This is how they cook. One PV panel will give, will give those people meaning of life, as I think, While their neighbors, in Uganda, they are using, PV panels and generating electricity. As you can see on those primitive houses, they are really sticking those PV panels and generating electricity for that. As we can see, this is the potential electricity from the sun at some locations. Most of the countries nowadays, they are encouraging the people to produce their own, electricity in their houses. By the way, in Britain nowadays, they are encouraging, like, the program of Shams here in Dubai as well, which was announced by, His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. This is how they can produce their own electricity from the solar system, as you can see, very easily, very simply, by sticking all these really solar panels, silicone, and then that will really produce immediately electricity, and they can use part of that electricity for their own purposes, and the rest will be given to the sometimes exported to the grid or given to the government. And this is what Britain is doing nowadays, encouraging the people to produce their own electricity from the solar panels. And you can see a number of them are a number of houses, as well as streets is being lit by this type. You can see nowadays a very interesting thing in most of the British houses. They have all these solar panels, and they can produce their own electricity. And by the way, if they have any extra, they can sell it to the government. Government will buy that extra. And this is the way, really the best way of investment, where you can let all the people, for example, invest, and then you can get or gain, what you like. They are sticking, all these solar panels everywhere on that bridge, and they are concentrating, the sun by using the nano, technology, so that they will have much more energy from the sun than the usual. This is in Baldwin country in Alabama. You can see the utility authority, they give 4 cents for the people whom they use electricity from solar system, while they charge them 11 cents, when they use it from other supply, from the non-renewable system, as you can see. Most of the houses, as I mentioned, in Britain nowadays, you can see they are using really solar energy, and this is retrofit homes in United Kingdom, as well as, that's really the same thing. They are using all these, solar system to produce their electricity, and then they can use part of it and sell the other part to the government. This is another interesting, really, example in Arizona, where the climate is similar to our climate here in United Arab Emirates. You can see those 4 houses in Arizona, 350 days of sunshine, and United States really is using that solar energy to produce electricity for all these very, really desertic area, in Arizona. This house is a house of one of my friends in Britain. Really, he is one of my friends, and he told me that he is producing his own electricity, and he is using only 40% of that electricity, and he is selling the government 60%. And that encouraged most of the people, to use that type of energy, and this type of investment as well. Again, most of these really towers all over the world nowadays, they are sticking on them solar panels, as you can see in the high-rise apartments, in United States, as well as, the eco-village in United Kingdom. 4 million houses across the United Kingdom will be powered by the sun by the year 2020. Imagine 4 million houses, and that will represent a 22% really of their electricity, megawatt. Again, in Maldives, 10 public projects, and it's all using, solar energy completely, and there are, really other projects there in that, remote area in the ocean. Again, Yingli Americans supply 25 megawatt of solar PV modules to Arizona's Queen Creek solar farm. As you can see, this really, it's a big solar farm, which produce electricity for that reason. And I think one of the largest PV projected about 50 megawatt in Rajasthan, completed by the Western Energy Limited. It is really supplying 90 million kilowatt of electricity per year to 25 million homes. Imagine. This is really unbelievable, and you can see, there is no limit for these panels, It's really saving about 83,200 million tons of carbon emission, to the climate. This is another very interesting, really, project. This is one of the primary schools in Britain, in Bristol, and you can see the whole school is using their electricity as well as, their power from this solar energy. That's another interesting project. The Sentinels Air Force in the United States of America. As you can see, this Air Force, the base Air Force, is depending completely on these solar panels as well. Again, another interesting thing is that a number of universities there nowadays, they are really doing lots of research on using alternative ways, and this is one of them, the University of Notre Dame in Indiana. They are really producing about 12,000 kilowatt per hour of electricity per year, helping to meet the building energy needs in general. Again, the wall of mounted power station in Spain, you can see this is how they fix it, on any building to produce energy, electricity in general, and that will produce about 300 to 500 kilowatt. And that's one of the biggest projects. This is really in Munich, in Germany. As you can see, 500 kilowatt. And this is really the ceramic PVs photovoltaics model that installed next to the airport in Munich. And the length of that is 1 kilometer, as you can see, all the way through, for 1 kilometer producing electricity. Photovoltaic grading as well in Japan. As you can see, most of the towers, are producing electricity, and I hope one day I will see that, in United Arab Emirates, where all the towers, should be converted to using, solar energy. Then at least they can, reduce the amount of electricity that's being really used somewhere. Again, in Britain, this is the London Black Ferries Bridge, producing 1.1 megawatt of electricity. The number of panels, on that bridge is 4,400, and the annual generation is 900,000 kilowatt per hour. Also, we are saving about 513,000 kilogram of carbon dioxide by using that. Again, this is one of the interesting example. As you can see, this is a big farm of solar energy in Italy. It really installing about 20.3 gigawatt, which is enough to supply 7% of the Italian electricity demand. 16.5 using hydraulic power, 4.7 wind, and they are all, renewable energy, and 1.7 geothermal as well. Total in 2013 for Italy is going to be 29.9% of their electricity is concentrated and being generated from this 4 types of renewable energy. United Kingdom as well, they installed 2.46 gigawatt. France installed about, 4.5 gigawatt. And Denmark as well, has something like 553 megawatt. PV in Japan reached about 4 gigawatt. In Netherlands, about 655 megawatt as well. And in 2013, the installation reached about 37.5 gigawatt as well. Again, you can see in Germany, this is one of the uranium mine, and they have covered it all by PV panels that can produce 20 megawatt and about 19,000 megawatt of electricity per year. Not only that, but even some of the companies like the Ecomarine Power, they build energy cell, and you can see they are using both, solar as well as, wind turbine to support and to reduce the fuel cost of that ship, as you can see. And not only that, but this is one of the Planet Solar catamaran boat, which was completed in a big tour around the world, and really they are depending completely on solar energy. I think most of you knows King's Cross, and as you can see, there is about 150 meter span of photovoltaic generating about 10 to 20% of King's Cross railway station in London. That's, they are producing, electricity for that. And CIS tower grading in Manchester as well, which is similar to, and 40 megawatt, as you can see in that big farm, of solar energy in Germany. PVs as well being really installed in a number of places in Britain, and they are, although, the sun duration in Britain, is very limited, but you can see in many parts of the, United Kingdom, they are now using that very much. They are producing 9 gigawatt by the end of this year, 2016. And, Britain is aiming to get about 22 gigawatt by the year 2020, which is 15% of their electricity demand. That's another really solar park in Ukraine, 100 megawatt, as you can see, is really an endless, farm of solar panels. And Bahrain University as well, they are doing some research really on polycrystalline PV system, China as well, by the end of September 2015, they are producing about 37.95 gigawatt of electricity from using solar energy. And similar thing, in different parts of the world, and this is also, there are some research work on the National Renewable Energy Lab, which is really trying to use gallium phosphide instead of the silicon. Now, what about the solar power here in United Arab Emirates? As you know, the solar power in the United Arab Emirates has the potential to provide most of the country's electricity demand. And United Arab Emirates has taken a very good steps to really introduce solar power on the large scale. The United Arab Emirates is planning to generate the vast majority of its electrical energy by the year 2050 from solar and from nuclear as well. Abu Dhabi, we have in Abu Dhabi, Shams solar power station, 100 megawatt, and concentrated solar power as well. And as you know, we have Masdar City, and Masdar City is really depending mostly on solar photovoltaic, and it's going to be one of the, sustainable cities in the whole world. This is the Masdar Institute of Science and Technology, and that's Abu Dhabi municipality, which is depending mostly, on solar energy. In Dubai, of course, the Dubai Clean Energy Strategy aims to provide 7% of Dubai's energy, as His Excellency Al-Tayr mentioned, in his speech, by the year 2020. But this will increase and it will reach 25% by the year 2030, and we hope that it will reach 75% by the year 2050. The first phase of the proposed 1,000 megawatt Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum solar park, 13 megawatt, and the solar farm of DEWA, 13, that had been constructed by the first solar in 2013. The second phase is going to be 200 megawatt, 260 megawatt photovoltaic plant to be built, Riadh-based, company, expected to be completed by this month, April, this month next year, 2017. In April 2015, Dubai Electricity and Water Authority, DEWA, really publicly announced the third phase of 800 megawatt along with Dubai revised target to really increase the share of the renewable on the energy mix. 7% of the electricity is going to be by renewable energy by the year 2020. And the Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park is one of the world's largest renewable project based on independent power producer model, and beside the three-phase that consists of solar farm using photovoltaic technology. The long-term project will also include concentrating solar power. The total capacity of the entire project is planned to reach 3,000 megawatt. This is the Dubai Solar Park. And there is another interesting thing here in Dubai, in the port of Jebel Ali. There is a company which is called, Marine Terminals, worldwide company. This is going to install about 19 rooftop photovoltaic system, and that will cover, it will produce about 30 megawatt, and it will cover 1/3 of the port itself. 1/3 of the electricity is going to be covered by this. Anyway, building using 50% of energy, they are the key to sustainable future here in Dubai. So the vision of United Arab Emirates really develop what we call the 3E initiatives: environment, energy, and economy. Why solar energy is really becoming, very popular? Because if you try to see the prices of the solar panels in the 70s, it used to be about $76.67. Now, by the year 2014, it's becoming, $0.36, less than $1. That's why, this, you can see the electricity using, photovoltaic is increasing very much indeed. And as you can see, it's increased because, the photovoltaic cell panels, is becoming, or the price is really decreased very much indeed. Now the last part of my talk is about, the wind energy. I'm only concentrating on two things, the solar as well as the wind. I'm not going to talk about, geothermal energy or, about, for example, hydro energy, water energy as well, because we don't have rivers or dams, we don't have, geothermal. That's why, we have only two things, the sun as well as the wind. This is the Sweden progress in wind energy. And as you can see, the whole world is really a number of countries, especially Europe nowadays, as well as China. China is producing about 63,000 megawatt from wind energy. United States about 47,000 megawatt. Europe about 100,000 megawatt. India about 16,100 megawatt, and Brazil is 1,500 megawatts as well. Siemens is doing lots of really big projects concerning, wind energy, and they are doing that in Britain, in Suffolk, which is very close to London, and in the estuary of River Thames as well. Now, wind energy is not only, onshore, but also offshore as well. And you can see this is a comparison of the prices. Onshore, it costs about $2,200, and offshore, about $4,000. Now the technology has been really improved very much. And Siemens as well, is building about 1,050 megawatt wind farm in Madison, in Iowa, in United States. And they are also doing lots of big projects in the Norwegian coast, and that is going to produce 2.3 megawatt, which is only about 10 kilometers from the coast of Norway. As you can see, Europe is producing really lots of energy from wind. Asia and Pacific as well, Latin America, North America, especially, Canada is producing the highest, but our area is very poor, especially the Middle East and Africa. United Kingdom is really doing very much, especially in the northern part of America. And Siemens really started, and this is, they are doing some field testing of the new 154 meter rotor for the 6 megawatt offshore wind turbine in Denmark. They are going to fix it there in Denmark. Bahrain as well, they are using some of the wind towers, and this is one of the big wind tower in Bahrain, 675 kilowatt. China has become #1 in wind energy application end of 2011, installing 62 gigawatt, as well as, these are the wind farms in Southern California and 140 megawatt Pacific wind and PV that can really adjoin to that, In Spain as well, they are really installing about 321.4 megawatt onshore, and in France they made about 32 wind farms. About in Brazil, 120 megawatt in Rio de Janeiro, and 100 megawatt in Canada as well, 500 megawatt in France and 178 megawatt in Italy. As I have already mentioned, Europe are all really switching towards, wind energy in general. And this is the largest really wind farm opened by the president of Estonia, Thomas Hendrik. And this really is going, or the capacity of it is going to be 111 megawatt. Siemens really installing lots of turbines, that wind turbines, in Britain and in a number of European countries as well, and that will produce really lots of energy, especially electricity, from the wind turbines. China, as I have already mentioned, is going to really have a new design. This is the 10 megawatt turbine, one machine, which is different than the others. And now they are really completed the design of that, and they are using it as well. So if we try to see the cumulative PV installation globally, we will see that the rest of the world, which is number one, about 2,098. Middle East and Africa, very poor, they are 601. China is about, 8,300. And the Americans in general, 8,717. Asia and the Pacific, about 12,397. And Europe is more or less the highest, 70,043. I think all of us heard, last December there was the biggest global revolution, which they call it, the Paris Agreement of the climate. And we hope that the temperature of the earth will be kept at 1.5 degrees centigrade. They try to decrease it to become, 1.5 degrees centigrade. Each country really make zero emission of the, carbon dioxide. And that is the Paris Agreement, how to reduce the global greenhouse gas emission in general. That's all, and thank you very much. If you have any question, I'm ready for it. Okay, thank you.
نشكر البروفيسور رياض الدباغ على كلمته القيمة، ونبقى الآن مع استراحة قصيرة.
Thank you, Professor Riadh AlDabbagh. Ladies and gentlemen.
الحضور الكريم، في إطار استراتيجية التي تنتهجها هيئة كهرباء ومياه دبي في مجال المعرفة وتبادل الخبرات وطرح المستجدات العلمية في مجال الطاقة الشمسية، يسرنا دعوة الأستاذ الدكتور عبد الحي العلمي من جامعة الشارقة. الحضور الكريم، نعتذر. والآن يسرنا دعوة البروفيسور إلى المنصة مجددا لتكريمه.
صورة دكتور.
شكرا جزيلا.
يعطيك العافية.
شكرا.
تفضل. يعني هاي شغلة رمزية.
شكرا جزيلا.
أشكرك على المحاضرة القيمة.
الله يسلمك. افتريناكم حول العالم كيف العالم ده يعمل البي بيز. ثانك يو.
صورة
يعني احنا سعيدين يعني بوجودك.
احنا اسعد. شكرا جزيلا. بارك الله فيكم.
تسلم يا دكتور. تسلم. لا تخليك بس وجهك عليكم بس يصوروك. شكرا جزيلا دكتور.
شكرا. بارك الله فيك. يا الله. شكرا. تسلمي. شكرا جزيلا.
ايوه هي اوكي. الاخضر هي الاخضر لا النابي. شكرا دكتور.
تسلمي عيني. الله يسلمك.
لك البوكس مالت رفع.
ايه شكرا. شكرا. شكرا.
الحين في بعد تكليف.
شكرا. تسلم. تسلم. لا بالعكس يا اهلا. هلا.
يعطيك العافية دكتور.
ها كيف كانت؟
تمام حلو. بس الرتم
ايه
الرتم لازم يكون مرة عالي ومرة واطي عشان الشباب اللي هون ما يملوا.
مو بالله؟ ايش تسوي لهم يعني؟
لا مرة تتكلم برتم خفيف بعدين
صح.
صوتك يعني زي الخطباء.
صح صح صح.
جزاك الله خير.
شكرا جزيلا. يا هلا. يا هلا.